problem of, I can say, interprocess communication, and the problem name is dining philosopher problem. You can see this image, there is 5 philosopher, P0, P1, P2, P3 and P4. If you can give name like this, P0, P0, P1, P2, P3 and P4. These are the dining philosophers, right? So these are the total 5 philosophers are there, and the fork kept, you can see in both the side, right and left. So first philosopher will pick the left fork, and then philosopher will pick the right fork. So this is the, I can say, this is the P0 fork. So this is, it will going to pick it first, then second it will going to pick the next fork, P1. For eating anything kept here, either it is spaghetti, either it is, I can say, fried rice, anything else they can keep. You just have to understand the concept. So for eating anything, one philosopher requires to take 2 forks at a time, right? So you can see here number of forks are less. If 2 person can eat together, means at one time, not more than 2 is allowed because of limited number of forks, and at a time you need to pick 2 forks, right? So dining philosopher problem involves the allocation of limited resources from a group of process and in a deadlock free and starvation free manner. There are 5 philosophers sitting around a table in which there are 5 forks kept beside them and a bowl of rice in the center. When a philosopher wants to eat, they use 2 forks, one from their left side and one from their right side. When a philosopher wants to think, he keeps down both the forks at the original place. So first it will, I can say, first it will pick the left fork. So as per this image, this is the left side of this philosopher and this is the right side of the P0 philosopher, right? For P1 philosopher, this is the left side and this one is the right side. So P0 philosopher needs P0 and P1 fork, P1 philosopher needs P1 and P2 fork, P2 philosopher needs P2 and P3 fork. So these are the, I can say, numbering given to the fork also. Now you can see here, these are the philosophers. What is their duty? Their duty is to just think and eat. When they are thinking, they are not eating, but once they have stopped thinking, they need to eat something. So these are the fork given to them, 5 philosophers and 5 fork. So what are the cases? What are the problem? At a time, one person can use 2 fork to eat. One he has to pick at the left side and second he has to pick the fork of right side. So at a time 2 person can eat, other has to wait. Second scenario is a deadlock condition. If one philosopher pick 1 fork, for example, P0 has picked P0 fork, and he need P0 and P1, but P1 is picked by the somebody else, P1 philosopher. P1 required P1 and P2, but P2 fork kept by the P2 philosopher. So everyone has kept one fork, and this is called deadlock situation. Nobody is able to eat because other fork is blocked by the next philosopher. So see this code, how it is exactly going to run. So while thinking, they'll not eat, but when they want to eat, they will first pick the ith fork. Means suppose P0 philosopher is there and he wants to eat. So P0 wants to first take the left fork, that is the ith fork, and that is the fork number 0, right? And the next fork he need is ith 0 plus 1 by n. N is divided by number of fork 5, and this is the ith plus 1. This is the mode n. Mode operator is this, right? And mode of 1 by n is 1. So this is the fork 1. P0 needs fork 0 and fork 1. So it will going to, he will going to take the fork ith and I plus 1 mode n. Then he will start eating. After completion of eating, again it will, that particular P0 philosopher will put the both the fork down, free both the fork, so other person can take that fork. So first he will keep left fork down, means F0, ith fork down. Then he will keep first fork, it means F1 fork down. right fork down. So first left fork, second right fork. It will then keep the right fork down. Then he will start thinking again. As and when he need to eat, he can. Now suppose P2 need to eat, so P2 will do the same process. There are two cases. I can say that in case 1, P0 required fork 0 and fork 1, and he will eat and keep the fork down. Now both the fork are free. Now P2 will come and P2 again need is P1 will come. This has kept both the fork down. So now this both the fork are free. Now process P1 will come. Now P1 will need a left side fork, means F1 it required and F2 is required. Now F1, F2 both are free. So it will use and then put it down and then free it. So other philosopher P3 need the F2 and F3. P1 has completed eating and kept the fork. Now the turn of P2 will come. P2 can use F2 and F3. After completion of its eating, P2 again free up this 2 fork and P3 will come. P3 will use P3 and P4, and after completion of P3's eating, it will keep down both the fork. Now P4 process will come, P4 philosopher will come, he needs F4 and F0, this both are the free and he will eat. But this is the case when only one philosopher wants to eat at a time. Okay, this is the first case, and that one philosopher can eat easily without any problem. But what is the second case when two philosophers come together, P0 and P1? Now P0 philosopher wants fork F0 and F1. P2 parallelly wants P1 parallelly wants F1 and F2, his left side and right side. You can see here P0 wants this 2 fork F1, F0, and P1 also wants this 2 fork F1 and F2. Now F1 is blocked by P0, so P1 will not going to eat because it is already blocked by P0. They two are coming parallelly together. So right fork and left fork. Right of the P0 is F0 and right is F1. Left of the P1 is F1 and right of the P1 is F2. So F1 is blocked by P0. So in that case, what happens? P1 will not going to get chance until P0 will release the F1 fork. So this is the one situation. Now how we can handle this situation? To handle this situation, we are using semaphore. Okay, so you know that in semaphore we are having two conditions, wait and post, right? So initially all the values are 1. I have even shown you in the litter box. You can see here in this image. Yes, initially the semaphore value is 1, right? Means wait. Now if the cat is in litter box, it means the value of semaphore will become 0. So the cat is in critical section. It is using that particular thing. Once it will come out, again it becomes the value 1. So this is the wait and post, wait and signal. Signal it will give that now it is empty, critical section is empty, somebody else can enter. And if somebody is there, it means semaphore value is wait and wait is equal to 1. So here there is one problem when parallelly two philosopher is entering. So this problem we can solve using the semaphore. So semaphore is having signal wait and semaphore is having signal wait and signal, right? Okay. So you need to keep wait and you need to keep signal here as it is. Other remaining code will as it is you have to write down. Now we are having 5 philosophers, so we need a 5 semaphore, S0, S1, S2, S3 and S4. Initially all the semaphore value are equal to 1. Now when P0 will come, P0 need the semaphore S0 and S1 to lock for eating into the, I can say the spaghetti or the available rice on the table. Okay. So whenever P0 will enter, it require the value of S0 and S1. So when S0 and S1, it will value of S0 will become 0 because it is used by P0, and S1 will also become 0 because they are using this. They are eating. Once it will complete, it will become again 1 and give the signal, other process can enter. Now which semaphore required by P1? P1 required S1 and S2 semaphore. P2 requires S2 and S3 semaphore. P3 requires left and right means S3 and S4 semaphore as per the given diagram. And the last one is P4, that is S4 and S0. You can see in this diagram, P4 requires fork F and fork 0. It means you need semaphore S4 and S0. Okay. Now what happened? The first P0 will enter into the critical section. You can focus that P0 is going to enter into the critical section. Initially, all the semaphore values are 0. S0, sorry, initially all the semaphore values are 1. S1, S2, S3, and S4. Yeah, all values are 1. Okay, so for entering into critical section, you need a weight value 1. Right? Now P0 is entering into the critical section and P0 is changing the value of semaphore S0 from 1 to 0 because it required the semaphore S0 and S1. So left and right, ith value and I plus 1th value. So now both the S1 and S2 can be used by P0. So P0 is going to use this two semaphore and making its value 0. Now P1 wants to enter into the critical section, but P1 can see that the semaphore value it need is S1 and S2. But S1 is already 0, so he cannot enter, he cannot make S1's value 0 because it is already 0. S2 is free, he can make the value of S2, but he need at a time 2 fork to eat. So he is not allowed to enter, P1 is not allowed to enter into the critical section because one of the fork of P1 is used by the philosopher P0. So P1 is not allowed into the entering into the critical section, P1 is going to block. Right? Now P2 is coming. P2 required the fork S2 and S3. So P2 will do the value of S2 from 1 to 0. It needs to make the value of S2 1 to 0. He is able to make because S2 and S3 both are free. So S2 and S3 he can make the 0 and P2 can enter into the critical section. So at a time two philosopher. In mutual exclusion what we can say that in mutual exclusion at a time only one process is allowed to enter and update the value. But in this case we are allowing two processes to enter into the critical section to update the value. Right? But the condition is that two processes are completely independent. You can see here. Here P0, for example, this you can consider P0, you can consider this as a 1, this as a 2, this as a 3, and this as a 4. So they are completely independent because one number philosopher is using this 2 fork and 3 number philosopher is using this 2 fork. I mean 2 number philosopher, right? After leaving 1. So these are the completely independent fork they are using. This one is using P0 and P1 fork. See here, P0 is using F0 and F1 fork, this 2 fork. And we have allowed P2, that P2 is using F2 and F3 fork. So these two are not dependent on each other. They are using totally independent fork. Even P3 is allowed, P0 and P3 is allowed because P3 is using F3 and F4 fork. So when they are independent, they are using, they are not dependent on resources. They are not even sharing that particular same resources. So they are allowed to enter into the critical section. So here P2 and P0 are allowed to enter into the critical section. Now when P3 comes, P3 required S3, but S3 is already 0. It has made by the P2. So he is again going to block because it is already used by that particular P2 philosopher. So S3 is not allowed to enter into the critical section. Now P4 wants to enter into the critical section. P4 wants S4 and S0. S4 value of S4 is 1. He is able to make it 0. But he need S0 also, and S0 is blocked by process P0. P0 is already into the critical section. So P4 is also blocked. P philosopher 4 is also not allowed to eat. So at a time, only two philosophers are allowed to eat using two fork, right and left. Okay. Now the next case is how to, we can say how it is going to create a deadlock. You can see in this figure. all the philosophers are entering into the critical section at the same time, and they are using first, they are using the, suppose P1 is entering first, I mean P0 is entering first and using the left side fork, right? And maybe some of, because of some problem, it is going to preempt. Preemption can be done because of some, I can say, time limit problem or some higher priority process is coming. So P0 is entering, P0 has taken the fork, left fork, 0 number F0 fork. Now P1 is entering, P1 has taken F1 fork, left side fork, and preempted. Now P2 is entering, P2 has taken the left side fork, I can say P2 fork, F2 fork, and preempted. Now P3 is entering, P3 has taken one fork and preempted. P4 is entering, P4 has taken its left side fork and preempted. So all the philosophers are having only one fork and they are not able to eat. So this kind of situation is known as a deadlock, when one process is waiting for the other process to release the resources and nobody is releasing the resources, everyone is waiting for other to release the resources, and this situation is known as a deadlock. So this kind of situation where occur when one philosopher is using first fork. So how to, I can say, you can see that the code, how we can understand through the code. See here, P0 has first enter into the critical section and blocked one fork or semaphore S0, right? So value of S0, it will become from 1 to 0. Now P2 got preempted, and now P1 is going to enter into the critical section, and he has also taken the S1 semaphore, and it will going to make the value of S1 from 1 to 0 and preempted. Now P2 is going to enter S2 fork, left fork or left semaphore it has used, and the semaphore value become 1 to 0, and it is again preempted due to some power or some other reasons, I can say some timeout and all these things. Now P4 enters, and the first fork of P4 is, right side fork of P4 is, I can say, S4. S4 it has taken, and it required the next fork is S0. So S4 becomes 1 to 0. Now this is called deadlock. Now how to avoid this deadlock, how to break this deadlock? For that, what we need to do, we need to change the sequence of the P4. N minus 1 processes are going to execute as per the requirement. Means left, right. But when nth process will come, last process will come, it means P4 will come, you need to change the sequence. You need to put the sequence like first you need to put the S0, and the next you need to put is S4. So here you need to put Si plus 1 first and Si second. So what is going to happen? You can see here, whenever P4 comes here and it wait. Okay. So P4, you need to change the sequence from this S4 to S0. You need to change the sequence S0 to S4. So whenever P4 come, it will try to increase the value of S0, decrease the value of S0 from 1 to 0, but it is already 0. So it is blocked. It is not allowed to enter. Now value of S4 nobody has used, so S4's value will become 1. It already remains as it is 1. It will not become 0 because nobody is using S4. Now P3 will come. P3 has already used S3, that is 0, and it required S4. S4 is 1 because nobody is using it. We have already blocked P4 because P4 has changed the sequence. Now S4 is free, so P3 can eat using this S3 and S4 fork. Now after eating, P3 will make the value of S3 and S4 1 because it has completed its eating part and now he will go for thinking. Now we are having S3 and S4 both the value 1, right? Now S2 will, P2 will come. P2 has already made the value from 1 to 0 of S2 and he required the another fork that is S3, and the value of S3 is equal to 1 and he can make value from 1 to 0 and he can eat using S3 and S4. After eating again it will make the value of S2 1. So now S2, S3, S4 all three are the 1. P1 has already blocked 1. It is having the value of S1 for with him. The value he made is from 1 to 0 and the next fork he required is S2 and that is available. The value of S2 is 1. He is using that S2 semaphore and make the value 0. So using this S1 and S2 semaphore, he is able to enter into the critical section to eat that spaghetti or I can say the fried rice. Now after completion of his eating, he will P1 will going to make the value of S1 1 and the S2 1. Now P0 enters. P0 is already having S0 fork with him, semaphore with him. Now he need S1, but the value of S1 P1 has completed the eating and come out from the process and he increased the value of S1 by 1 and that P0 required the S1 also, so it is going to make the value of S1 from 1 to 0 and P0 can also eat. Now P0 fork is also free. S1 fork is also free, so this P4 can also eat. So this is going to remove the situation of deadlock by changing just a sequence of the nth process. Remaining n minus 1 will remain as it is. We have just changed the sequence of from left right to right left. So this is, I can say, going to avoid the deadlock. Here everybody has a hold and asking for the another one and nobody is releasing, so this is the deadlock. This kind of situation can be avoided. Now then